Ching, ching.
And welcome into Pressbox Live. I'm Stan the Fan Charles of Pressbox and PressBoxOnline.com. With me is my co-host, Ross Grimsley, saluting to all. And in just a second, we're going to talk to one of the very best left-handers in Orioles history. But first, I want to tell you that Pressbox Live is brought to you by C3 American Exteriors. Go to their website at c3america.com to get a brand new roof for just the cost of your insurance deductible. That's c3america.com, the website. Joining us right now is a man who adorned his uniform with the number 16. He threw the last out of the 1983 World Series, and that is one Scott McGregor. Scotty, how are you?
Good, Stanley. How are you?
I'm good. It's always a pleasure to see you. I asked you off the air kiddingly, but I'm going to let our viewers in on it. In 1983, when Gary Maddox hit that little humpback liner and Cal Ripken caught it that the Orioles had won their championship, did you ever think it would be 17 and then 21, 38 years, and the Baltimore Orioles would not be back in a World Series?
No, we thought that team was pretty invincible. They when we got through 79 and we're up 3-1 loss, but we were in the hunt every year. So it was just like, hey, that's just what we do, and we kind of, we were past Earl Weaver. We were with Joe Altobelli. Ross Grimsley wasn't around, so we were safe, So.
Thanks.
A lot of people always alluded to the fact that Earl wasn't there is why you won it in 83. But you bring up a real strong point that Ross Grimsley wasn't there too.
Every year I left, they won the next year.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, Scott, I did want to ask you, in the last week, we've lost Joe Altobelli, who was your manager back then for only a brief time, 2.5 seasons. But in that time, he was the last Oriole manager of 3. Hank Bauer won, Earl Weaver won, and then Joe Altobelli won to win a world championship. What can you tell us about an insight into the man a little bit?
Well, Joe was great. Joe was the perfect guy to come behind Earl because he was in AAA with Dower and Flanny and Dennis Martinez and Eddie and all of us, and I got traded over. So it was like no big deal. Earl left, Joe came in, we knew him. He was the perfect guy. He was not crazy like Earl. He was quiet.
He was sober. He was sober on most occasions.
oh Lord.
As far as I know, yeah. But he was he inherited a team that pretty much ran itself.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so well trained that you had Renicky and Lowenstein out in left field. You had a pretty good starting rotation. You had 2 pretty good switch hitters with Singy and Eddie there, with Cal in the middle, and the lineup never changed. You had the 3 Musketeers at the end with Dower and Dempsey and Cruz, and it was just a fun group that had been together since '77. So that was pretty easy.
Ross, go ahead.
Yeah, Scotty, you had, like you said, you had a good group. The lineup was stable. They knew every day you come to the park, guys knew who was hitting where and who was playing. Pitchers knew what their jobs were. It's not so much that way now. You never know who's going to be in the game usually. But anyway, there's pitching and defense are the number one things on a team to be successful. And now the Orioles now, they got you got Kramer, you got Aiken, you know about those guys. Harvey, who's hurt, obviously, now, but Scott in the bullpen. Got a couple of guys I want to ask you about. First guy, the knuckleballer, Mickey Janis. What can you tell me about this guy? Is this legit? Does he have something that is possibly?
I don't know. Last year, sitting out in the bullpen in spring training, they kept bringing him over as one of the jicks, one of the just-in-case guys, and they'd always get him up somewhere along the line, and I'd watch him, and some games I'd look at that knuckleball and I go, not much, you know. Then
Yeah.
there were days it was good, you know. So
Right.
you got to be really good with a knuckleball. I mean, you got to be Necro. You got to be, you know,
Right.
R.A. Dickey.
yeah, Dickey, and look how Dickey didn't last long. You know,
No.
Yeah.
it's a tough pitch, you know, and I wouldn't put all my money in that.
Put all your money on him.
No, no.
All right. Well, then there's the other guy. Now, I know you saw this guy pitch and you commented on him. He's had a good spring so far. I mean, you read so much into that. But Zimmerman has done some things that you were impressed about. I heard we talked about it one night. But tell us a little bit about him.
He's a great kid. This year, I mean, he's worked really hard. He's a local guy from Baltimore. Henneman, just thinks he's in love with him, you know.
Yeah, no.
And
We heard that. Yeah.
oh yeah, but I mean, I'm watching him this spring, and one of the few times where they were on TV, I went, where did 94, 95 come from? I mean, this guy, I mean, I know everybody's trying to throw hard nowadays, but it's an easy one.
Yeah.
And he's got a nice breaking ball. He's come with a changeup, and he's, you know, what's he throwing? 9 shutout innings, 10 shutout innings so far, and he's looked very. I like his pitcher's body. He looks like, you know, he's somebody that could last, you know, which nobody knows anymore. I mean, so, you know, and he's just a down to earth kid. You know, he's a great kid, good kid to work with, and I'm really happy for him. He's doing well.
You think he has an opportunity to make that ball club?
Well, he's left-handed. God bless him. That's the only way they can win a world championship. It's Cuellar, McNally, McGregor. I mean, come on.
Hey, Scott,
There you go.
back in your day, not so much you, but a lot of the Orioles starting pitchers, even Dennis, Storm Davis, they kind of came up and they worked out of the bullpen a little bit.
Oh, I worked out of there.
What's that?
I worked out of there. That's where
You worked out of there too. I always
Yeah.
remember you as a starter, but I remember a lot of the young Oriole pitchers, I think Flanagan a little bit too, worked out of the pen. Would you think that, does it take some pressure off of a Zimmerman to say, hey, we're going to work you out of the pen in long relief first and then
Yeah.
gradually move them to a starter?
Well, look at, you know, one of the most recent examples of that is Dylan Bundy.
Yeah.
Dylan Bundy, I had him and I had Hunter Harvey. Poor guy, blew out again. You know, he didn't have a whole lot of innings in his career, like maybe 100 in the minor leagues, but he had to be protected. So the first year they stuck him in the bullpen, and that's the way it was with us. You were like well, there was only 5 guys in the bullpen back then, so you were the 5th guy. You were the long guy. And you got in when somebody gave it up, which happened once a month. You know, they didn't give it up, you know. And then if you did good, Earl moved you up. And he called me in and he goes, listen, you don't know if the bus pulls up in front of Detroit Stadium, you don't even know where to go. I go, no, I don't. He goes, you don't know how to get in there. You don't know where your locker is, you know, and so you're going to go around the league. You're going to get to know the place, and we'll work you in, you know. And it takes the pressure off, but at the same time, that means that they believed in you. So you're here and you're going to make it, and we're going to make sure you make it. It's not like now you know, all right, call, you know, Norfolk, jump the plane, come pitch tonight. If you don't do good, see you later. We'll never see you again. I mean, I don't know if my heart would have taken the stuff that these guys go through nowadays.
You know, because it's interesting this year, you know, we talk about the 5-man rotation, and some people like say, boy, they ought to go back to a 4-man rotation. But this year, I think you're going to see more teams pitching with a 6-man rotation because of how many innings were lost last year and how you properly ramp people up. You're like giving me a look like, is that not a big deal? Ramping somebody up from 40 innings to 150?
They pamper these guys enough nowadays. Are you kidding me?
I forgot you were old school.
Like, I mean, just because all of a sudden you had a pandemic, which unfortunately happened to the country, and they played 60 games, all of a sudden these guys regress back to being first-round draft picks 10 years ago, and you have to walk them through it. Give me a break. Get out there, you know, and pitch. You know, it's not that big of a deal, but they've made something now. All of a sudden we got 5-inning, 6-inning games in spring training, and
right,
and you can
unbelievable.
take your pitcher out and put him back in if you want. Oh my God.
The minor leagues, who we did in the minor leagues,
Oh,
in spring
yeah.
training.
It's like, what in the world, but
What is the world coming to?
yeah. And yeah,
Hey,
it's
you
just,
you
whatever.
alluded to Hunter Harvey, and you said, poor guy, he can't, can't get a break. At this point, and this is not a knock at the player, Hunter Harvey, but is the organization, should the organization's eyes be wide open to what the possibilities are for this guy? Because it really doesn't look like the squeeze anymore is worth the juice that they're getting.
I think that, I love him. And
Yeah.
he's like one of my kids.
Yeah.
Him and, like I said, Bundy, I went through the same process. I just texted him today and said, how you doing? He goes, well, so I said, you trying to bring me out of retirement? Been pretty much leaning in that direction, in the last year or so, that they have to handle him with kid gloves, and that's just not going to work in a bullpen nowadays in the big leagues. So I don't.
We're having a little connectivity problem there with Scott. But Scott, if you can hear me and you get back on with us, I wonder if the thought is maybe it would be better if Hunter Harvey, and I'll throw it to you, Ross.
Yeah,
Are you there with us, Scott?
yes.
You-
He's,
I wonder if the thought might be that it might be better that he try next time to be a starting pitcher again, rather than have to go through the rigors of the bullpen.
I tell you, either way, Stan, it's amazing the injuries that not only the Oriole guys have, but all in baseball. I mean, we've talked about this before, and it's a different mindset with what they do. I mean, swinging and throwing. Thing is, pitchers don't throw as much as they used to, and I mean, they don't do the fundamentals. I mean, the Orioles, and several, they have one bunt play. It's a regular bunt play. So they don't PFP. Obviously, they don't do enough PFP because most of the errors by pitchers are throwing errors, almost 80%. So I would bunt the ball back to the pitcher a lot of times. Here, try to throw it to a base. I'll take my chances, But it's, you just got to be careful. I mean, that is something that's not spoken very much about, is the injuries in the game. And we never saw these injuries back when we played. Obliques, I didn't know what oblique was. I thought it was an algebra term, which it took me 4 years to get out of school with that. But anyway, it's unbelievable, but it is what it is. But you'd think people would look into that a little bit deeper.
Scott, I guess my question to you, and we had some connectivity problem. At this point in time,
Am I there?
You seem like you're there, but at this point in time with Hunter Harvey, once he gets past this oblique thing, do you think it's actually better for him to try pitching more multiple innings as a long reliever rather than being a short reliever?
They've tried to go both ways,
Yeah.
and we've talked about it. Dave Walker and I talked about it. He's almost like one of those soft tissue guys that just,
Yeah.
it's not for everybody to be out there all the time. If he starts, maybe better turn, which leads to an oblique injury. And I don't know. I mean, he's hurt every part of his body. I thought that he could hurt, so I don't know if there's anything left,
I mean, the one where he hurt his shoulder, he like dislocated his shoulder, and it was from moving out of the way, foul ball in the dugout. I mean, that was the craziest one.
Yeah, I'd love to see him because he's a great kid. He's got a great arm, but like I said, it's not for everybody. So we'll see.
Out of the younger guys that are with the team currently, the other two left-handers, John Means and Tanner Scott, you've probably been through the wars a little bit with them. Tell us and both of them haven't had an easy time developing into what they are today, but they both look like they're on their ways to very successful careers for what they do.
I mean, when we first got Tanner Scott, he was scary, definitely. he was throwing about 100 miles an hour and you didn't know where it was. He'd throw them 10 feet up off the backstop, behind a righty, behind a lefty, but you could just see the arm and the once again the body that is so strong. The kid just he's really good, you know, and he's refining some things and got that slider working and the fastball, you know, so he's gone through it and he's mentally strong. He might be crazy, but he's mentally strong. He's
I
good.
gotta ask you that
And-
about being mentally strong.
Yeah.
Were you watching the game about 3 or 4 years ago out in Anaheim where he absolutely lost it? And Buck at the time didn't have any more bullets in his gun. He had to keep him out there. I'd say that game ended up changing him a little bit because he had to refocus.
Yeah, I mean, you know, everybody has to come to that point, you know, in their career somewhere along the line, you know, and he's done a good job. But he's a resilient kid, strong. My Lord, what an arm! And
Yeah.
Johnny Means, I was always in his corner. People for years kept saying, "Oh no." I go, all I could see was this guy that Ross, you know, intimidated in his life, and this guy Baumgartner out there in San Francisco. I kept telling him, I said, that's what he reminds me of. This big, tall lefty, he's got a high.
Yeah. Well, Scott, I mean, Ross, we've
People
gone,
say, yeah, I go,
There he is.
we've gone a year doing these things and we haven't had as much connectivity problem as we've got tonight.
He's down in
to Scott-
Tennessee.
We're talking to Scott McGregor right now. John Means is a guy, and then Ross will have a couple more for you. But Scott, John Means last year, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he was throwing at 93 to 95 miles an hour instead of 90 to 93. And all of a sudden, the changeup wasn't quite as fooling the hitters. Is there a danger in adding speed that it throws off your changeup?
yeah, I was texting him regularly during that time. I said, what are you doing trying to throw hard? You were an all-star last year. Throwing. And I said, your changeup's gone. You can't throw your fastball over the plate because you're trying to throw too hard. I said, and I think apparently Hyde and Doug broke the same conversation with him.
Right,
Said, hey, just get back to what you were doing.
right.
He's another durable, good kid, hard worker, leader, kind of guy you want out there every day, you know. So yeah, this modern world, it's kind of crazy,
Yeah,
you know, in all ways, you know. But I said, just relax and do what you're doing, and that's what he's doing now, and he's finding his groove again. Yeah.
Be you. That's all you got to do. Be yourself.
Be yourself, you know.
Yeah. You saw it. Hey, Scotty, years ago when the Orioles was successful, pitching, defense, big thing. We had some catchers that, had a clue behind the plate. Obviously, the guy coming up, Rushman, is you've seen a little bit of him, I believe. How close is he to the big leagues? I mean, he's only played a year of what, high A. Is this guy that close, or does he need some more time? I mean, the only way you get better is playing in games, and I don't know.
He needs to play. He needs to get into some higher levels and see if he can start hitting the fastball a little bit because they're throwing it by him right now. You know, so good kid, hard worker. You know, but like I say, you know, one thing about coaching all those years, you saw it when you said it earlier. When we were playing, you never thought anybody's going to get hurt. You know, you just knew you went to a league, you're going to play there the whole year, you're going to dominate, you're going to go on, you know. And now, you know, I look at guys every time we sign them, go, well, when's he going to get hurt, you know, and can he survive, you know, and it's a different day for that, you know. And so I like Adley, you know, but so far it's been like, we'll see. You know?
Is he a guy that would come up at end of the year, or would they do that to him? I mean, is he ready to handle? I mean, for that matter, a lot of these guys have never played in New York, Boston, Toronto.
They played there in
yeah, but no fans. No.
talking about their mothers, you know. And,
Really.
yeah,
Will this affect any of those guys?
sure it will. Did it affect you? Yeah. Come on,
Well,
you put 53,000 in Yankee Stadium
no, I know. But
instead
I
of
mean,
nobody, and see what happens to you.
but we had been through it before. These guys have never been through that, and
They were
they've never played a full 162 games, some of them, and this is a whole new thing.
How many people actually do play 162 anymore?
Well, we were around it for 162 games.
Oh, gosh, you know. So,
I'm certainly not bailing on Adley Rutschman, but I've noticed that the kid that they thought they might take number one a year before the draft, Bobby Witt Jr., he's got 3 home runs in spring
Right.
training so far. And he's going to probably start at Double-A this year, but he's got 3 home runs, and Adley hasn't, popped anything really.
well, he's a work in progress, you know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Scott, how much did this missed season mean to some of these players? The lack of an ability to really have a competitive season, forget just the innings pitch thing, for the players developing like a Witt, like a Rutschman. Is it a setback?
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like, getting called up, to go to Double-A and playing the whole season in Double-A and playing against those guys that you can see that you're going to be moving up with, and that, and then getting to Triple-A, guys that were supposed to be in Triple-A playing the whole season there. There's nothing like 146 games, against your peers and developing and going through the ups and downs, going through the seasons, going through the slumps, going through the good times, learning how to handle what you're going to face up there. So obviously that was taken away from them. But at the same time, I think they've blown it way out of proportion. Out of proportion.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about in your history with the Baltimore Orioles, especially when you first got to the team, we had a succession of pitchers, and it started, of course, with number 22, Jim Palmer, who was there for the next decade, even once you got there. But talk a little bit about what kind of leader Palmer was to you guys, to you, Flanagan, Martinez.
Oh, it was, I'd give him credit for everything that happened to me, obviously in 1971, there's 4 20-game winners.
Yeah.
Now it's 76, and it's Palmer and who are these guys? And he would sit there during the games. We didn't use video.
Right.
The guy pitching tomorrow was doing the game chart, and but we watched, and he taught us how to watch a game. He taught us how to work through a game. He taught us that this is what your ERA is, so don't panic. If you get a 3 ERA, you might give up 3 runs, but hold them right there, And but I mean, we would sit there and watch guys, and I'll never forget one time. I don't remember who the hitter was. He said, "Now listen, watch this. With 2 strikes, you do not throw this guy a curveball for a strike. It has to be bouncing." Yeah, got it. So I went out the next night and I threw him a curveball for a strike and he hit it for a base hit. He met me at the top step and screamed at me. "Didn't we talk about?" I said, "Dang, these guys are serious about this stuff." I mean, he was everything. He was, okay, I love Ray Miller. He was great. I played against him in the minor leagues, pitched against him. I had got hits off of him, And so I get called up to the Orioles. Who's the pitching coach? Ray Miller, that was a AAA pitching coach, a AAA pitcher, or this guy that just happened to win 20 games, 8 years in a row, and 3 Cy Young Award winners? He's the pitching coach. I mean, he taught us. I mean, he taught us to watch 106. We pitched 162 games. We didn't pitch 35 games. We pitched every pitch.
How many guys are in the game today that do that to the young kids? I mean, do you think there's the guys that are like that?
I'm sure there's a few, but not like it used to be.
Yeah,
not like Palmer.
No.
And so Flanagan was there with you.
Flanny was listening. I was listening. Dennis wasn't listening in those days.
Right.
He couldn't hear
He's
anyway.
going to his own thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but he turned out to be unbelievable. Thank God. He turned it around. And yeah, it was fun. I mean, it was really fun.
Scotty,
Now,
the philosophy back then, real quick, Stan, let me
that's
say,
okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
the philosophy back then was, throw strikes, change speeds, hit spots, work quick.
Work quick. Yeah.
That was basically the thing that they talked about. What do they have? What do they do now? Is they have any type of thing that with the Oriole pitchers that they any philosophy at all?
Not that. Not about that.
Yeah.
No, they probably burnt Ray Miller's shirts a long time ago. The only one that seems to have kept it is the kid that threw the last 3 innings today. What's his name? Our lefty, Akins. He gets the ball, goes, get it and go, get it and go.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys, I watch them today. It's just painful. They throw a pitch, even if it's a good pitch, they get it. They walk back behind the mound. They step around. They shake off the catcher 5 times. How can you be consistent? How can you do that? Get it and throw it. No. So I don't know. No. I did when I was coaching with them in the minor leagues, and you probably did the same things.
Oh yeah.
Get the ball and go.
Right.
And if the guy was struggling, I would always bring him in between innings. If he had a bad inning, I'd go, okay. I went to the catcher. I go, you call the pitches. I'd go to this guy. I go, here's a jar. Take your brain out, put it in this jar. We'll put it up here. You come back, get it after the inning's over. You just, whatever he puts down, just throw it with all your heart. And they get him out 1, 2, 3. And they go, hey, how's that happen?
Yeah.
Because you got it out of the way. Until you learn to do it yourself, let the other guy run it for you.
Don't think. Yeah.
Hey, you alluded to you talked about you and Palmer and Flanagan and Martinez. Come 1980, a guy comes over via free agency named Steve Stone.
Yeah.
He had, in my opinion, and I've watched all you guys, that was the most dominant season of home games that I ever sat, and I used to sit behind home plate. I was so impressed with him that year. Did he learn from Palmer, or did he have more of an idea of what he needed to do to win?
He learned from all of us. He lockered next to me, and Palmer was close by. And Earl Weaver used to tell the story that, Earl was, one thing to make Earl great is he was good at picking out the Cuellars and myself and
Yep.
people like that. And he told me on a cruise years later, he goes, I saw him. I turned to Bamberger. I said, this guy's got a great curveball and a good enough fastball. George, if we get him, can you get him to throw his curveball for a strike? And George said, oh, sure, with his Staten Island accent and a few other expletives in there. Sure enough, you get he came over, he had like 5, 6 pitches. And we said, hey, throw your fastball, throw your curveball and your little split, and that's enough. And the whole year he was winning all the time, and we were working with him and talking with him, and he's locker next to me, and he turned to me one time, he goes, I don't get it. He goes, what's that? He goes, you guys really care. I've never been on a team
Unreal.
I've never been on a team where anybody really cared about me. I said, yeah, you care because we want to win this thing, So he that was one of Earl's things. He got him and figured out, and Bambi helped him, and
that's a great story, because I always sensed that the Atlanta Braves, one of the keys to their success over those many years was that those guys helped each other, and Maddox was kind of like the Palmer down there.
Maddox, hell, they had 3 of them.
Yeah.
They had Smoltz, they had Glavine, and they had Maddox. And
Right. But
Leo,
Maddox was kind of the veteran who came over and helped Smoltz and Glavine.
Yeah, but who's the pitching coach on that team? Leo Mazzone?
Leo Mazzone, and he was with them. He was with them in the minor leagues with the guys, and his and I'm a big Leo Mazzone fan, and I know coming to the Orioles, he had no chance.
Yeah.
He had to do his thing in the minor leagues and go through, but he had a good system, and it was very it worked very well. And I know I took it to Seattle and we did it there, and I did it some with the Giants. Having the system that they used was very simple. All they did was throw.
Yeah.
But it was a smart thing, and not at full tilt, but they did a lot. They threw almost all the time. And that's something that they've got away. And you didn't see a lot of guys with arm problems over there.
No, they did their throwing on the mound. They're not doing all this pregame long toss and stuff.
Yeah.
They pitch on the mound, and yeah, it was a good time.
Scott, the young pitchers, I know you talked about Means and Scott that I brought up, but how familiar, and you talked about Zimmerman, but how familiar are you with that next group that's coming up? Lothar, Bowman, Grayson Rodriguez, and DL Hall.
Well,
Are you
DL,
familiar with those guys?
yeah. DL, boy from Valdosta, Georgia, and he came down there and great curveball, good live fastball. I think he's developed his changeup. So I mean, he's a kid to keep your eye on. He's a competitive kid. He's gotten bigger, stronger. I've always liked him. I thought he'd be able to pitch up here. Grayson Rodriguez was ahead of the curve. This kid was he's pretty aggressive. He's just
does he have the chance to be a special number one guy?
Well, you bring up a point. The number one thing, I don't buy it. The number one thing is opening day. And after that, it's every day. Okay,
Yeah.
you got to have a number one. God damn, you got to have 4 of them. You got to have somebody that goes out there every night, gives you a chance to win. You can't say, well, we got number one tonight, and then we're going to lose 4, and then he comes back, So you win 60 games. That's where we're at. But I mean, if you're a starting pitcher in the big leagues, you better be able to pitch 7 innings and give the ball to, Britton and Chapman instead of me at the end on the other when I first came up. I mean, but Adley is a special kid. Bauman's, big strong. They don't, I'm 6 foot, but nowadays forget that. These guys are big,
Yeah.
And who was the other one you talked about?
Bowman, Lothar.
I haven't seen Lothar that much.
Okay.
I've heard good things about him, but I've seen Aiken. I've worked with those guys, and yeah, there's some arms there. But once again, you don't know what's going to happen.
You don't know. It's a crapshoot.
There's a guy that we just got back. I wonder if you ever saw Gray Fenter pitch.
Yeah, I've seen plenty of Gray.
What do you? I mean, I know he's a little old now for being where he's going to be. He'll probably be at Double-A this year. But is that a guy that's got a possibility of making it to the bigs?
I mean, everybody's got a possibility if the light goes on.
Yeah.
But he was never mentally strong for me.
Okay.
I'm sorry if you're listening to this, Gray, but
That's all right. That's all right.
Gotta be honest, man.
Yeah.
There's not
How
enough
about-
people that are honest.
Now, how about the guy, because I don't know exactly who you've seen and who you haven't. The guy that infuriated me that they let him go in the Rule 5 was Zach Pop, who ironically pitched today for Miami. It's the first inning he's pitched for Miami. And there's no way the Marlins are letting him go.
no, he's got a great arm. We picked him up. Which trade was that? There
It was a Machado trade.
Machado trade, and I saw him at the end of that season when Bowie was in the playoffs and went down there, and he came in again. Holy cow!
Yeah.
That was a Jimmy Johnson power sinker,
Yeah.
and okay, I'll get in trouble. Analytics takes away the sinker. They don't like the sinker. So they take the sinker away from this guy, tell him to start throwing 4-seamers, and now he's in Miami, he's throwing his sinker.
Yeah.
So-
Well, the thing, it's amazing to me. I've seen it and it's in every walk of life, just baseball. But I remember when Pat Gillick drafted, what's the kid's name? Jason Worth,
yeah,
because his mother had been an Olympic swimmer or something like that. He knew the family stock. And as soon as Gillick left, Sid Thrift couldn't wait to trade him.
oh yeah,
And Jason Worth became a really, not a superstar,
Yeah,
but a
good
very
player.
good player. Very good player.
Good to have on a team.
yeah.
Like Zach Pop would have been. And now they allow Zach Pop to leave on a Rule 5 and take 2 chances on 2 other lottery tickets. That I don't know.
They got a bunch of them.
I'm off on my sounding board.
Yeah.
So what's in store for Scott McGregor this season? You going to be working with the club at all, doing anything?
Not that I know of,
Okay.
hopefully I'll get to do some alumni stuff. It sounds like they're gonna let some fans back in, so maybe
Yep.
we'll get to be around there some, but as of right now, I'm enjoying retirement,
All right.
my 3 kids and my 9 grandkids, and playing golf with Ross once in a while.
Well,
Get on up here. It's going to be nice.
we appreciate your dropping by, and we especially appreciate your proactively walking into the other room where the connectivity was
My
much
daughter
better.
kept saying the internet's better in the other room. I said, "All right."
There's less drilling on the furniture and stuff.
Dog that likes to lick me. Say
Oh,
hi.
who's that? Who's that dog?
That's my daughter's dog.
Who's that? What's the dog's name?
Maisie. Say hi,
Hey,
Maisie.
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 Hey,
There's
Maisie. Hey, Maisie.
Maisie.
Hey, Scott, we appreciate your
All
coming
right.
on board with us.
All right.
Thanks, buddy.
All right,
All
Stuart.
right. Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
All right.
Ross, you and I will talk over the next couple days. I appreciate you as always, and we'll come up with what we're going to do next Monday night. All right.
You got it, buddy. You got
I
it,
want to
man.
remind you that Pressbox Live is brought to you by C3 American Exteriors. Go to their website at c3america.com to get a brand new roof for just the cost of your insurance deductible. Wednesday night, Gary Stein and I will have Kevin Coward on to talk about his new book entitled You Must Be Cinderella, about UMBC's shocking upset in the NCAA tournament. Scott, you got a pick who's going to win the whole thing?
I have no idea.
No,
How
none
about you,
whatsoever.
Ross?
No.
All right.
But Stan,
I'm gonna go with Illinois.
let me tell you something.
It's real easy.
Yes.
Stan, you need a new roof.
Yeah.
I
He
certainly
needs a
do.
roof.
You need
I'll
a
see you.
roof.
I'll
Hey,
see you
Rube.
guys later.
All right. See
Thank you,
man.
Scotty. Thanks,
later.
Ross.
All
We'll
right.
talk to you later. Okay.
Bye.